Hello. Wow, just like a good class, I think. So, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us this afternoon for an open topic, open presentation by our first finalists for the position of Vice President of Academic Affairs here at Laramie County Community College. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Scott Searcy to campus and really have some time to spend with him today. Just briefly, you all should have received or have seen his bio, but Dr. Searcy is currently serving as the Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs at Northwest Kansas Technical College. Prior to that, he was at Waldorf College for many years in many capacities, up to the Vice President of Academic Affairs. He has a background with community colleges, both serving as the statewide president for a statewide mathematics faculty position, as well as, I believe, starting your career at Bayonne Community College, fresh out of high school. Degrees from New Mexico, Highlands University, as doctorate in arts and mathematics from Idaho State University. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gentleman who has taken an interest in our college and our position, and I want to give him the time this afternoon to present to you and then hopefully have question and answer. So with that, Dr. Searcy, the floor is yours.
First of all, I want to congratulate you. I want you to relax. You found the room, you found the chair. Now you just have to stay awake. You're 2 out of 3. That's not quite passing, but it's close. Right? Anyway, if you got any questions as we go, just ask me. I don't mind interruptions. Really, I don't. So, how do you work with me? I think that's really what this is about. That's really what I was asked to talk about in some ways. Sort of be a subtext underneath. So here's sort of my bio. A lot of you probably read it. And in case you didn't, you're like most students, most of you haven't read it, but we'll see, right? I'll try to summarize right quick. I've got a lot of background. I was adjunct faculty for a couple of years at Idaho State. I was good enough at that. Mainly I could teach the math for elementary school teachers with decent reviews, which was considered a minor miracle, because most math faculty just got awful reviews in that course, because the education students didn't want to be there, and everyone knows math faculty can't teach. I think that was what was said by the ed chair. He said, I'd like to apologize for that, but that seems to be the prevailing attitude, he said. Anyway, I was good enough at it, so I got to be a visiting faculty member, which was interesting. They usually kept those for outside people that they brought in, because they could bring in people and get them to do some research with them and teach a lot of classes, and it was great. I got that. Actually got one of those positions, served in that for a couple of years. Then I went off to Bay College, and I was there for 3 years as department chair there, and did quite a few things, but you blow a lot of snow in the UP. I actually kept track one year, and you spend more hours blowing snow than mowing the lawn. And there comes that point in December where you realize you have to blow the lawn so you can blow the sidewalk onto the lawn, where you just blew the lawn away. You know, a lot of snow. Big snowblowers too, like 16 horse motors on these snowblowers. But anyway. So I said, well, let's look at some other possibilities, and Waldorf came up. Waldorf was largely a 2-year school. It had started 3-year BAs, and eventually it became 4-year BAs. But from a math and science faculty point of view, it was the same old Lutheran junior college it had been since the 50s, which was good in a lot of ways and a lot of fun. That lasted right up to about 2008, when we basically ran out of money. And then we went through a whole odyssey of being bought out and change of control and being a for-profit online school. All that went very well. It provided opportunity for me to be vice president, because everybody jumped ship who could, I think. And I was more than willing to stay, because I thought there was some good to be had from it, and I think in the end we did a lot of good. But there came a turning point in 2014 with another budget crisis brought on by ownership, basically saying, well, yeah, you're making money, or you're about to make money, but we're going to move the bar. And I kind of lost heart at that point. I said, maybe I should do something else. So I asked myself, what else would I do? You know, there aren't a lot of 4-year Lutheran liberal arts schools around, or even a lot of 4-year privates. I wasn't really sure I wanted to be in the big college, big university setting at all. I don't really like that. A friend of mine who works in one of them says, you know, when you got 300 people in a freshman class, what are you doing? And I'm not sure he could answer it either. So I said, well, you know, maybe I should look at some 2-year positions. And it worked out that Northwest Tech had an opening. I applied for it, I got it, and I went, I like Goodland. It's close to the Front Range where my grandmother, well, she lived there then. She doesn't live there anymore, but it was nice to see her soon. So let's go. So that brings me to this opportunity. This is a bigger school, more stable. I know you've got budget issues. Everybody does anymore. But you're a lot better off than Northwest Tech is. I will guarantee you that. In fact, if we're not careful, we don't do something. We've been on the edge more than once. We might go there again. So to me, it's a very big plus if I would obtain this position. So I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of accreditation work, a lot of assessment work, and led up to being VPAA for about 3 years, where I did a lot of work on degree plans, creating new programs online mostly. I think all of them are online at Waldorf, and including a whole new degree category for online for adult degree completion. And since then, I went up to Northwest Tech. We're now qualified as an online school. We can offer all our programs online. I oversaw that work and got that through the HLC approval process. And since then, I've become one of the peer reviewers. So when they send people out to visit the campuses, I might be one of the people that would visit. I don't know, where all you visit, but anyway. So that's sort of the bio. So 3 examples that explain to you what it's like, what's my leadership style. This is telling a story on me. This is a very good story on me. This is 2009. We're being bought out. We have to undergo what's called an attachment A visit. Sounds rather benign. And a change of control. Okay, no one knows what that means, including people at the HLC. The reason why it exists is they had a really wide open transition where you could buy a school, keep their accreditation, and move on. And then one school that didn't really meet HLC standards very well got bought out, and they're like, it's okay, you can just move on and we'll work with you. And Sylvia Manning found herself testifying before Congress, explaining how a school that didn't meet the standard could still be HLC accredited. And maybe HLC accreditation shouldn't mean you get financial aid money anymore. Okay? That caused a panic at the HLC, and so they came to us and said, about that change of control. We have determined that by August 8th, and this is like middle May, maybe about May 20th, by August 8th you must give us a complete self-study to tell us how this transition is going to go forward and where you are now. And we'd spent 2 years working on a draft, and it was virtually nowhere as a committee. Up to this point I've been involved, and all of a sudden we've got to, in 2 months and a half, basically, turn out a self-study. So Richard Hansen, the president, says, that's your job. I won't tell you what I told him. I was cussing reality, I was cussing our circumstances. Is it fair? Why do we have to live with this? It's just awful. And he says, look, these are our circumstances. I don't want to hear this crap anymore. You go home, and you come back tomorrow, and you tell me what we're going to do with our circumstances. That's where you're going to have to be almost anymore as college faculty. You're going to have a lot of lemons, or we're going to have to make a whole lot of lemonade. Okay? You may have to bring your own sugar at times, I'm just telling you. And I'm telling you that because I've been there. And I've been there multiple times since. If life was fair, they would put a lot more money into schools, and it would be easy for us. Life is definitely not fair, in case you were curious. So I will tell you that. We end up facing challenges, and we have to face them with constructive attitudes, as good as we can get. We have to believe we can make it through these difficulties. We have to find creative ways to tap into everybody's expertise and everybody's ideas to get those ideas on the table, so maybe we can assemble something that will work. You know, you buy Legos, they come with a kit, and all the Legos are in there, and the plan is in there, right? But if you lose some of the pieces, could you still make something? Probably. Could it be neat? Yes. I think that's the way we are now. We don't have the whole set of Legos. We've got to use what we've got. Okay. So, collaborating to redefine a college and create a university. At Waldorf College, one of the strategic objectives that I was given as VPAA is we've got to start a graduate program. What should it be in? Something that would sell to our students online. It needs to be online. Okay. You ask the HLC, what should it be in? They said anything but business. They said this because there's a lot of business programs out there. They said, we don't want you to be one of the many. We want you to come up with something different. So now, okay, where do you start? What program do you pick? It seems like it ought to appeal to your online students because they're the ones most likely to take it, go through the bachelor's program and on to the master's. But which ones fit what you have for expertise in faculty? Where the faculty are interested in that. So we actually got people together, stopped them in the hallway, asked them, literally. We had a meeting where we talked about what program might we start. We got some ideas together. We put it together. And in the end, it became very obvious we had one best shot, and that was organizational leadership. Now, strangely enough, we didn't even have a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. But it fit well as an add-on degree for people who had gone through the criminal justice and the fire science and the business. It was a very good next step. It could be built in a way where those people from those majors could fold into it. So we said, okay, that's good. We like that. We found somebody. We had to have a consultant. We found consultants at St. John's University up in Minneapolis who were willing to come down and be a porky and come down and help us build this degree program. And we had a staff member who had finished her doctorate there about a year before, who was willing to be our first faculty member. She'd been a very successful teacher. This is all well and good. The board's excited. We're excited. In fact, they're like, yeah, that's probably the best one. Let's do that. And then we ran into a complication. Because remember, we're a private for-profit college. So above the board, there's a corporate board, which consists of 3 people. And the 3 people said, we don't think that's good for you. Because we don't see why anyone who gets a fire science degree would really think that organizational leadership is the next thing they should take. Well, we were kind of halfway down the road and kind of half committed and told the HLC what we wanted to do when this objection arose. And it was a good thing, strangely enough, because we sat in a room and said, okay, what do we do different? What can we do different? How do we handle this? And I can't even tell you for the life of me which one of the 8 people at the table, I think it was 2 at the same time, said, well, how about we're trying to make an applied organizational leadership. Can we shrink the master's down to where it's only 21 credits and use the last 9 for tracks in fire science or criminal justice or business where they can apply organizational leadership in problems in their discipline? And the organizational people leadership, our effectiveness, I like that. So we call our consultants and they go, that's a good idea. We should have thought of that. Because that would be a very saleable degree. So then we call our ownership up and say, hey, what do you think? Do you think we could sell this to our graduates? And they go, of course. That's great. And it became an addition, a very big redefining of the degree program. We had to rewrite a bunch of it, but it was for the better. It would market better. It would fit their needs better. And it gave us a niche that we didn't have before. We were one of the org leadership schools before, and there's about 15 of them online. Now we were one where you could specialize and have sort of a built-in minor that fit your interest. The people who were involved in that decision, up and down the food chain, from faculty and staff all the way up to ownership, which was above the board, was very broad. And that's why when things go well and you got time and you got interest, that's the way you want to make decisions. There was a lot of buy-in. By the time this went to faculty, there wasn't anyone who even wanted to speak against it. It just passed. Unanimous vote, end of discussion, let's move on. It went to the board. The board was jumping up and down because after all, ownership was writing a check and ownership liked it. And it also made HLC approval. They said they'd be glad to talk to us about getting that approved. They were excited about it. It all fit together. Now that's a good example. But now, what happens when you don't have the luxury of time? Okay, Waldorf was perennially broke. We were broke when we were bought out. When we were bought out, they wrote checks to keep us afloat. The vice president of business affairs would pick up the phone and call the person at Columbia Southern University and say, hey, I can't make payroll. You can't? No, how much you need? I'll write you a check. We'll keep it on your books. We'll keep it on the balance sheet as a deficit. We were broke all the way through the first 2 years when their president that they had handpicked ran the operation. In fact, our deficit got worse, even though it wasn't supposed to. Because they kept trying to invest in things that they thought would either dramatically improve online enrollment, and it didn't, or dramatically improve residential enrollment, and it didn't. So we were in trouble. And that's actually after 2 years of that, they said we need a new president. They got a new president. And that president was our vice president of academic affairs. He moved up, I moved up, and they said, you've got to fix this. So we put together a plan to fix the budget deficit. And a year later, we felt we were on track to close the budget deficit by the way we promised. Barely, but on track. Okay, and just so you know, it was a $13 million budget. It was about a $6 million a year deficit. Okay, you don't do that just by cost cutting, although we did some of that. You don't just do that by reducing force. We did some of that. We did our best to make it as humane as possible, but we did it. But mainly you do it by scheduling growth, and we were making money in online classes. So our plan was to get more growth in online classes. And one of the problems you have, okay, if you think about going to an online school and you pick either Columbia Southern or Waldorf, and you call them up and say, hey, I would like to be a student at your school. They go, great. We have a form for you to sign, and we want you to list all the schools you've ever been to. Because what we're going to do is you're going to sign that form authorizing us to get your transcripts at no charge to you. And we will then lay out all your classes against everything in our degree plan, and we will give you here are the courses you need to take, finish. Here's how long it could take. Here's how much it will cost you. Full in, right? The problem we were having at Waldorf, even after we were starting to make progress on our budget deficit, was that we were not competitive in the adult completion market. If you brought 1,000 students to Columbia Southern University and you ran them through the whole transcript eval process and you said, here you go, here's your credits to finish, they would convert about 30 of them to real, 300 of them to real students, 30%. Maybe I should do it out of 100. Just do it out of 100. Yeah, without 1,000, they get 300. We would get about 150. So naturally, this gets people at Columbia starting to think, well, why is it Waldorf can't get as many students as we can out of 1,000? They're regionally accredited. We're only nationally accredited. They should get more students. And of course, the answer is obvious. If they do a degree completion audit for Waldorf and degree completion for Columbia Southern, there were fewer credits to earn here. They had a smaller core and a smaller degree. And I knew this. And I knew they wanted us to have a smaller core and a smaller degree. On the other hand, I'm running a residential campus with baccalaureate degrees that have a long tradition, meaning history, faculty in place teaching classes. I don't really want to reduce my majors from 40 and my core from 40 down to 30 and 30 because that would disrupt everything traditionally, faculty-wise, building-wise even. It would just be a nightmare. So I didn't want to do it. Well, after a year of being vice president and hearing about this, I had shopped on the back burner talking to a lot of key faculty. I said, if push comes to shove, what do I do? And there were some ideas, but nothing major. And I came up with my own, and they kind of thought it was all right, but they didn't want me to offer it. My idea was, let's offer a different degree plan online. We'll call it a Bachelor of Applied Science. It'll be 30 and 30. 30 in the core, 30 in the major, and the rest of it you can transfer in. I don't care if it's a welding class, I don't care if it's supply sergeant school, they get business credit through the Red Book, I don't care, whatever it is. And I had actually kind of half shopped this, but never got anywhere. Become the fall of 2012, we have a surprise meeting. Ownership flies in, and they announce to us, you're never going to close this budget deficit fast enough. You need to close a residential campus. Now remember, the purpose of selling the school in the first place was to save the residential campus and the jobs and the faculty. So I'm sitting there, and it's lunch meeting, and they actually came in early, and I had to be out at a dentist appointment. I got there at 11. In the middle of this, and the president told me they want to close the residential campus. And I went, okay, time for drastic measures. I didn't have time to run up and down the hall to really talk to people. And I went and said to to the recruiter, I said, what if I give you a 30 and 30 degree? In other words, 30 credit hours in the major, 30 credit hours in the core, transfer in whatever you want that's legitimate credit from somewhere. Yeah, so it's legit, meets HLC standards, right to the letter, nothing more. But I can really figure it where it still looks a little like Waldorf enough where I can get faculty to buy into it. I'm sure I can. Especially because it means otherwise we close. That's always the that was a great leverage point, yes. And he said, I said, can you sell this? He said, yeah, I can sell it to students. I said, I'll have it for you 2 months. And he shook my hand and he told the ownership, I'm willing to bet on that. We can give him 2 months and we'll see if we get it and we'll see how well it works. It went through faculty. It went through on a closed vote and everybody voted for it. Everybody voted for it because I invited everyone to come down who didn't like it to complain, and they knew dang well they could. And I explained to them the tea leaves without threatening their job. But I said, you know, we can't keep running deficits like this. Eventually it leaked out. After it was over, the president told them, you don't know how close I was. At the time, we didn't tell them. We didn't want them to panic too much if we didn't have to until we were sure we were close. Anyway, we went through all that, and they said, okay, I see why. And they actually rolled up their sleeves, all the people with online degrees, and said, let's help you pick the 30 we need. And I got a group of core faculty together and said, let's pick the 30 we need for that. And we wrote it, and we got it done. And when it went up for faculty, as chair, I called for closed votes, written ballots. It's my prerogative to do that at any time. And I was very happy to tell you that everybody voted for it. That's how I can make decisions when I have to. I hate to ever be there. You don't want to be there. But if I have to be there for you and I have to do something close out of the fire, I can do that too. But I much rather prefer collaborating. Because I tell you, there was some collaboration in that, but it was sort of under the gun collaboration. We got to have this. How can you help me? And actually, it did improve it a lot over what I originally wrote. We changed it some from my original. It was still 30 and 30, but the structure did move. And I was proud of how it moved. It moved for the better. It was my back of the envelope sketch, and it was their blueprint. But, you know, can be done. So now, where would I lead if I'm here? Well, here's your picture. Who is this? Morgan Freeman. What role is this? This is Driving Miss Daisy. Yeah, I knew it right away too. Isn't that funny? That's not the movie I'm talking about, though. Was he ever a chauffeur in any other movie? This is an almost B movie that's very famous. Maybe it is a B. Joe versus the volcano. Do you know this movie? Tom Hanks is a hypochondriac, hates his life, always going to the doctor. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, I mean literally on the other side of the world, there's an island with lots of minerals. And there's a billionaire who wants to mine the minerals, but the chief won't let him. The chief says, I'd be glad to talk to you, but I got a bigger problem. And the billionaire said, what's that? I got to get somebody to jump in the volcano. Because if somebody jumps in the volcano, the gods will be appeased. And none of my people will jump in the volcano. And the billionaire says, hey, I'll get you a guy to jump in the volcano. Would you give me the mining rights? She says, yeah, sure, why not? Shake hands. Sure. So the doctor goes back to wherever. The millionaire goes back to wherever and talks to a doctor and says, you got any hypochondriac suicidal patients? Yeah, I got the guy for you. Well, good, let me pay you, and I'll pay him to go commit suicide. The doctor said, he's not dying. Well, I'll leave that up to you, Doc. Basically is the backstory. And so Tom Hanks' character is diagnosed with a brain cloud. Got maybe 2 months to live. Maybe it's 1.5. He feels much better now he's got a diagnosis. He knows he's dying, he knows what Anyway, he's walking out and the billionaire meets him. Hey, you look terrible. Oh, well, I spent on dying. Oh, I got a job for you. He pays him all this money, right, to go off and jump in a volcano. He gives him cash up front. So Tom Hanks is going to pack for his trip. He buys all kinds of stuff. He's ready to buy all sides, but he needs clothing for his journey. So he's riding around in the limo. He hired a limo Morgan Freeman's driving. And he says to Morgan Freeman, could you help me pick out clothes? So Morgan Freeman slams on the brakes in the middle of traffic and says, I don't even know you. I'd have to know you to pick out clothes for you. Right? So he pulls out some money and goes, could you get to know me for that? Oh yeah, sure. So they go around. There's so much truth to that, because if I come in here and tell you what you need, quit listening. Right? I could have the solution that is perfect at school A. Move it to school B, you fail totally. You've got to adapt things to local conditions. And we all have to meet the same standards. We all have a lot of challenges, but it's got to fit. You got to know where your students are going. You got to know what kind of students you're getting in. You got to know what their interests are. You got to know what your faculty interests are. You got to play to your strengths a lot. You got to know who you are to make good decisions. So take all the rest of this with a grain of salt, or maybe half a bottle. Half a vodka, don't you? Things I like. I like retention. I do not know what you're doing for retention. I can't tell you. But I can tell you that the earlier you can get help to a student, the better. And then often you have systems that do that. But it's hard for faculty to use them because often they don't get good feedback. It's the black hole, I call it. I remember doing these. I sent a report a month ago. I don't know what happened. They need to know what happened, because then they go, oh, hey, something happened. They got some help. Sometimes you figure it out because the student does better. But you're not always sure it was because of the system. That system has to be a two-way communication. If a faculty member points out a student needing help on an issue, they've got to get some kind of communication back. Thank you very much for doing that, and here's how we're helping them. That way it's seen to have value. There are things you can do in retention systems that will encourage that and make everybody on a team of keeping students, instead of it being, well, you're obligated to do that, and then I'm obligated to do this, and then we forget about it. Right? We're trying to pull together on keeping these people here for their sake. Graduation rate. There are things that can be done for graduation rate. One of which is, of course, to improve retention, because if they stay a while, they might actually graduate. The other one is sometimes you can play a unique game, and we've done some of this in Kansas. We have students who transfer out. There are sometimes ways to track back their credits and give them a general studies degree at your college when they go on and succeed elsewhere. You may not like your general studies degree. You may not want to advertise it. You may not want to let anyone else have it, but sometimes it's good to let those people have it. We did something like this at Waldorf. It didn't help for graduation rate because it was too late. But the registrar, I had the registrar going back there, and we found people that were almost graduated and hadn't. And we sat down and looked and said, what did they need? Sometimes all I had to do was change their major to liberal arts and they could graduate. So we'd send them a letter. Would you like to be a liberal arts graduate? They would say yes, and we would graduate them. Now they'd say, you want a diploma or you want a transcript, that costs you. But you're a graduate. We'll be glad to say you are. Anyway, as much as we can. And we also told some people, you're really close. If you switch to this major and take these 2 online classes through the online college, you could be finished. Sometimes just a little campaign of reaching out to those people. Some of them have gone off to school elsewhere and not finished. And they think, oh, what am I going to do now? And you suddenly send them a plan where if they take, 5, 6 courses, they could be a graduate. Ooh, wait a minute, maybe I'll do that. Those are things you can do. And even if it's too late to count towards a graduation rate, it still pays off because you got an alumni member. Now that you got one you reached out to and took care of, you're not going to have anyone more loyal than that. When they're old and sitting in an old folks' home and got money, they go, man, that school really cared about me. Maybe I'll send them some money. So those things you can do along those. There's other things you do for graduation rate, but that's my favorite. And then what I call program reinforcement. If you've got a program and it naturally should hold 30 students, and there's 20 in it, you really need to get everybody together and put your thinking caps on and figure out how to get to 30. It won't cost you hardly any more, and it'll be a lot more revenue. And that revenue can float a lot more boats in a lot more places and put put new roofs on and upgrade lighting, all kinds of stuff, right? And you say, well, we're getting our share. I've seen schools do that. I tell you, there is no such thing as share. In private schools, you have something called a discount rate you can play with. And we package our discount rate at Waldorf into scholarships. You could get a theater scholarship for $9,000 a year. $7,000, $8,000, or $9,000 a year. Would you like to know how many we had to give away? Take a guess. How many? 3. No, more than that.
10.
No, more than that. Come on, the price is right. More than 10. 100. Unlimited. Now, of course, there weren't enough people to give them to that we'd give them to. It was unlimited because it was discount, right? The reason why I'm saying that is you already play this game with athletic scholarships, if you've got any. We do. I've got students sitting in classrooms that got a $500 athletic scholarship, and that's why they came to Northwest Tech. $500. They won't leave because they got a $500 scholarship. Well, maybe you ought to think about giving $500 to somebody who wouldn't necessarily come in a program you have room in, if you can make it pay. And you've got to run the figures and you've got to make a sense of it. It's got to make sense. But sometimes you can do this and make your program a little more vibrant. Sometimes it's not even money. Sometimes it's just, we've got the, you've got your student newspaper. I'm sure there's some that want to come to work on that. They would be attracted to that. You can get in front of them. If you know the right place to get that information, there's some students who go, that's cool, I always wanted to be on a student newspaper. I was on a high school newspaper. That would be great. I'd like to do that. And even though it's not even money, it's just a perk. It's just a position. And it's a matter of getting it in front of them so they know that's something they can do. So you got to look for those things. You want to actually fill your programs. The theater program at Waldorf College had probably 7 majors at any given time, but the theater program itself probably had 65 participants. And there's some people who would be on stage for free if they knew they could be on stage. We paid them. We would have given them money anyway, but we paid them. All right? We'd have given it to discount some other way to get them in the door because that's what we have to do. When you're in private college, you put the price up here and then the real price is by half, in case you didn't know. So we just play games like that. We manipulated their interest to get them on campus. I don't even really feel bad about it because they're happy to come here. And they were happy because they came for a reason. And they're better students when they come for a reason too. So, program development. You may be considering new programs. I'm going to give you my philosophy on that very quickly here. You have to have students who might be interested. If they're not interested, you have to drag them into the program, and it can never be full. Don't bother. Even if everything else looks great, you've got to have student interest. It's got enough sex appeal or traditional appeal or something. You got to have the resources. Sometimes that's cheap, sometimes it's very expensive. If you want to do a wind turbine program, well, I guess you got a wind turbine, they can fix it, right? You got to be willing to realistically assess what equipment do we need, what facilities do we need, can we provide it? If you don't have it, you better think about 3 times over. Can we employ them if it's a direct employment program, or is this one that will lead to transfer opportunities where they'll be able to go on and complete a degree somewhere? We have crime scene investigation. Technically, you could probably get a job with our 2-year degree, but a lot of them transfer and go on and get a criminal justice degree in a 4-year school and then go to the police academy. Or maybe not. Some of them just work in labs because they have the experience. And then you have to ask yourself, what's the impact going to be on other programs? Most people don't consider this, but at Waldorf College, we had a very vibrant history program. There was a reason for that. 3 good professors, that didn't hurt. They really cared about their program, did a lot of neat things with students, that helped. But the other one was, there weren't a lot of options for students, you know, it was like, there were sort of the science majors and the business majors and a couple of things, and then there wasn't any general interest kind of a degree like like history. So we got a Title III grant, we put in a psychology program. And the thinking at the time was, well, 10% of the students in the United States want to be in psychology, they say, so that'll just give us access to that 10%, we'll have a lot more enrollment. No, it decimated the history major. Almost everybody who showed up as a psychology major used to be a history major, so we basically traded A for B. Wasn't necessarily a bad trade, but it really didn't help the bottom line. So you got to be really careful in that. And make sure you're not, I mean, it happens in technical areas all the time. We were really, one thing we were about with our precision ag was, we heard engineering, we did some looking at engineering tech and decided, no, probably not. Well, it hurt diesel tech and our ag, track and diesel tech. The answer is yes, but we were okay with that because it was often just about over full, so you could take a little damage. So we were okay with it. Welding about the same, but welding was very full too, so we were willing to live with it. We said, okay, this is a good thing. You have to think about this. So that's my spiel. And no one stopped me because I talked too fast. Anybody got a question?
I'll do this one. So you spent about 14 years at Walmart College.
Yeah.
And this last college you were at for just a couple of years.
Just a couple of years.
Why is it that you're wanting to leave after 2 years?
When I went to Northwest Tech, I was asked to do two things. One of which was to fix accreditation, which I had. The other one was to get approval for online, develop online. I got approval, and actually when I went there, I said, you know, it's going to cost money to get into online. You don't do it for free. You got to get your state approvals, and they charge for this. You're going to have to probably get somebody who's more of a course designer than me. I can do it, but I can't do it on top of everything else. And to help faculty, and we were really thinking about two programs. Go online. And at the time, Dr. Mills was president. He said, yes, that sounds good. I got the money for it. During my first year, he announced his retirement. And we went through the whole HLC thing. And Ms. Chatfield, very nice lady, she was interim president. She said, I'm not going to make that kind of commitment until we get approval. Then we got approval for it. And I went in and said, we got to at least do state licensure. Let's start there. They didn't even want to put the money into it because the budget is so bad. So in a lot of ways, the job I was really hired to do was probably to build my job in online. It's not going to happen. We can't afford it. So I'm kind of, you know, when they hire you to build something out and then you can't build it out, it leaves you in an awkward position. And so that's why I'm looking to move on. This would be a great opportunity besides that. That's why I'm looking to move on from there.
How has being a faculty member impacted the way you look at being a vice president of academic affairs?
Well, everybody knows how the dean does something wrong when they're not the dean, right? I mean, I have a whole list, and I try to remember them. The other thing is I find that when I was a faculty member, I know something about the dean. There were people who went in and squeaked a lot, and they had a lot more influence than everybody else. I try to avoid that at all costs. In fact, some of my friends at colleges, so-called friends at Walter, because I have a lot of friends, would say, it doesn't really pay to be his friend now that he's the dean, does it? Because I was after serving the mission, I was after accomplishing objectives, and I would, you know, if I could help you out, that's fine, but I wasn't necessarily, I want to treat all my, you know, you want to treat your kids equally. Kind of when you're a dean, you got to treat your faculty equally, whether you like them or not. Because they're here to teach students, they're here to fulfill a role, you hired them for that role. So you've got to be much more even-handed. You have to be very careful about what you're doing too, because it's easy to say, I got friends, and my friend's been nice to me, I'll be nice back. So, like I say, I'm probably a little meaner to my friends than I should have been. But that's okay. So I would say it influenced that, but I try to remember, I mean, faculty are the point of the sword. They are the ones that deliver that educational experience every day. Everything else is to enable them to do it better. So as dean, you've got to, or vice president, or whichever, you've got to, and even the staff, you've got to ask yourself, how are we enabling that education to happen? That's really the philosophy you've got to take. And things that get in the way of that, there better be a good reason why they're in the way. They better have to be in the way. Or you need to see if you can reduce them, alleviate them, or even get rid of them if possible. It's about education. standard, and back for that, well, yeah, standard pathway, and back for that, just peak. I've been through AQUIP training. I've never operated in AQUIP school. I've had lots of visits on everything else, but I've never done AQUIP.
How familiar are you with the requirements of being on an APIS pathway?
Oh, I know all about building your portfolio and having your objectives. And yeah, I've just never done it. I've seen the portfolios. I've trained and helped evaluate one in a clean room once. As a peer reviewer, they make you look at one and say, this is what you look for. But I've never tried to make one happen. Anything else?
Any other questions for our candidate?
Well, I'll ask another one.
Okay, 2 for 1.
So, in your speech, you talked a lot about the money problems at the different schools. How do you keep up morale when budgets are being reduced and people are fearful about schools?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, you gotta. What I want to say is you've got to keep going back to one of the primary reasons why we do this is to reward every day with the student. We have to protect them as much as we can from that. They're studying for an education, even when our money's tight. So you have to challenge faculty every day, and you have to present that we're making the best of it as we can. We've got to go forward and do productive things. Surprisingly, I find faculty, as long as they feel like they can come to you and complain, and they should, because it's not fair, and get some sympathy, and then pick up and figure out what to do about it. They're pretty resilient, and staff as well. I mean, I find sometimes staff are more resilient because I don't know. It's sort of I guess they just live with what they get sometimes more than faculty. Faculty feel so much more invested because the student's right there in front of them every day. Some staff get very invested in students, and they behave more like faculty in this way. They see the impact and it bothers them. And I think what we're up to, if you go back to the 1950s when my dad was in college was cheap. The main reason why it was cheap was the state put a lot of money into providing the college. There weren't that many students to operate for, so the extra money was a lot per head. It was a very high subsidized. And the reason why society did that is they wanted doctors and lawyers and, whatever they needed educated people for, and it was a point of pride. If you try to scale that up to today where everybody's supposed to go, and if you kept that level of subsidy, it would be a really very expensive part of the state budget and the federal budget too, and so it's not likely to happen. So we're sitting in a situation where it's just an industry problem. We really can't do much but try to do the best we can with what we get, and try to find ways to chisel out a little more from some good PR or by presenting well what we do to the legislature, so when they're compromising, maybe they compromise a little more our way. But it's not a good time in some ways. It's declining population. And even though everybody's going, we're almost reaching to the point where the college population or the college eligible population, even if all of them go, is going to decline. So it's always easy when, I used to say if you want to manage a gold mine, the best day to do it is after you discover gold. Lots of money in hand. You need equipment. You got money to buy it. Off you go, and you get even more gold. And it's great for a while, but then eventually you hit the point of diminishing returns, and it gets tough. And that's what we are, I think, in education. We have to manage our decline as gracefully as possible for the students, at least.
Any last questions for our candidate? Yes, Stacy.
So you talked a lot about as you're in the VPAA role, your involvement working with faculty. Can you speak to your experience in working and collaborating with student services?
Well, several places. I helped when the dean came in. We hired a new dean in Waller this year ago. We hired Jason Raymaker. He wasn't necessarily, by his own admission, wasn't a very experienced with students. But I befriended him early, mainly because I just thought I could help him, not because I know a lot about student services at the time, but because I know a lot about what it means to be an administrator, I guess, in practice. And I said, you know, he's a young administrator, he's going to need some help in those categories. So I made sure I was his friend. And I made sure that he could talk to me about issues he was having, either managing people or any of those things. And it kind of worked both ways, because then I started to learn a lot about student affairs from him. And he would tell me all kinds of issues he faced and how policy had to be written, how it had to be enforced, how you had to make sure it was done evenly, and a whole lot of issues that I hadn't been aware of as far as it went. So he and I were really close. And when I went to Northwest Tech, my dean of students is part-time. And really, what happens is I end up being him during the day, and at 3 o'clock when he gets out of class, he's the dean of students. And so we've had to be really, really joined together at the hip, if you will. I have to understand every policy, how he interprets his policy. I have to be him sometimes during the day when he's not available, in such a way that's very seamless and transferred to him. And I think the real key to that is just being very open, very clear in communication, and realizing, you know, I know what decisions definitely is. There's a lot of decisions by students that are his, and I just follow his lead on that and reinforce them as much as I can.
I have a question, similar to what Stacy's was, but in this role, if chosen, you would also oversee outreach workforce development, which would be the non-credit side of training of our campus. So how do you see yourself leading that area?
Well, I mean, the real trick there is to make sure that whoever you're serving, whatever employer you're serving, or whatever need you're serving, you make sure to get plenty of input. And I would encourage everybody there to, and I'd be very willing to be involved in these meetings. I've been involved in Northwest Tech. We just did a precision agriculture degree, and then we got a faculty member to come in and do it, and he developed it over last year. And we said, well, we need to have an advisory committee. We have advisory committee for all our programs because it's a typical college requirement. So I have to go out and find area employees who might hire these people and get them to say, yeah, that's reasonable curriculum. And so we're trying to meet their needs so that when our graduates walk out, they're ready. And I look at the training you're doing, that outreach development, it's the same thing. You're saying, what is your need? Let us define it as carefully as possible so we can meet it, so it adds value that you're willing to pay for. Whoever's paying for it, the employer or whoever your non-credit student is.
Any other questions for our candidate?
Oh, my screen's still
We'll have a few minutes to have Dr. Searcy hang around if you have questions you want to ask him, but please, on behalf of the college, join me in thanking him for his interest in our position. We'll have maybe 10 minutes, and then we're going to connect with you folks over at the Albany County campus, so hold tight and stay on over there.